We have seen how the story has come towards the main incident of the story here, and we have studied in our last class about the nature of the people, the king, and a kingdom called Monaco, a tiny toy kingdom where a kinglet rules the country, and he is facing difficulties in maintaining his kingdom with a lack of revenue or profit in the country here. And in such a situation, the country faces or experiences a new threat here or problem, biggest problem for this country especially, that there was a murder in the country. And it is for the first time in the country of Monaco, the murder has taken place, and the people and the juries, officials of the king or the palace were confused, and it is quite difficult for them to carry out this murder here, because it is new to them. They were not experienced in this case what facing a crime or a murder in their country. So for the first time they handled this murder and discussed among themselves, the ministers, courtiers, the barristers, advocates, everybody. They sat together, conducted a meeting, discussed, and came out with a verdict or a punishment to the criminal, and they have submitted it to the king, and finally the king orders or confirmed the punishment or the sentence to the criminal by saying, if the fellow must be executed, execute him. Don't consider anything here. Don't show any mercy here. If the fellow must be executed, then don't worry, you can execute him. So he announced the sentence publicly in front of all his followers as such. And from here on, we see that two dear of Leo Tolstoy entertain us with comic implications, situations here. And when you study each and every aspect of the governance of the kingdom, the rulers of the kingdom as such, you feel that they are lacking in knowledge, common sense, leadership qualities, and administrative skills as such. So this it entertains us with these kind of silly, simple, idiotic decisions that were taken by the followers of the king in Monaco here. That is why we can say that it is a satire. We can say that the play revolves around the comic presentations in the story. The story revolves around the comic presentations, and where we can also come to know that in the story of Tudia, Leo Tolstoy makes this criminal, the criminal as represented as hero of the story here. Hero, or you can call him as an intelligent intelligent man than the administration, the whole administrators in the king's palace. Hero or intelligent here. And for rest of the characters, what? Rest of the characters in the play are foolish in nature. In nature or character. So this is what you have to find out, in what way this is right or brought out in this story. So he is a shrewd, you can also call it not hero and a shrewd man. What? The criminal is shrewd. Remember this word. Who? The criminal. He is full of common sense here. He knows how to play with these rulers of king's palace here. So that is why we'll see how they deal with him in this, in the further part of the story here. There was only one hitch in the matter. Okay, the king announced, the jury gave him the verdict, decided to punish him, to hang him on, to cut his head off. But there was a hitch. There was one thing, in short, in the kingdom that they had neither a guillotine nor for cutting heads off, nor an executioner. See what a funny thing here it is. When there is no machine, infrastructure or required materials to hang or to execute a criminal there, and where there is no person trained how to execute the criminal, why should the government or the followers of the king's palace or the king's government give such a punishment? Isn't it? So this is the question arises in the mind of a reader when he reads it. Imagine, it never rises in the minds of the people who have announced the death sentence here. Neither the king nor the followers of him. No, they never ever thought, think and come to a conclusion here. So that is why I say that the criminal was a shrewd, very intelligent man. He knows how to escape from the difficult situations that arise in his life. So that is what he is doing here. We'll come to know how intelligent he is in dealing with the administrators, the followers of the king in Monaco. So they had neither a guillotine for cutting heads off nor an executioner. Yes, here only hit is the country has neither a guillotine machine. Here the machine which is used to cut the head off is called a guillotine. Okay, Guillotine. Guillotine machine, you can say, and not an executioner, means not an expert to execute. And we will come to know by this that the people or the administrators, the rulers in Monaco lacks common sense, lacks in knowledge. Did it? If a country has all these facilities to execute criminals, it should give the death sentence. So then it's okay, isn't it? If there is no materials like a guillotine machine and an expert to execute, so why should it announce in front of the citizens of the nation a death sentence to a criminal here? That is the question. Think of it. Don't feel that it is very simple and it is funny, okay, comic, waste. No. In further part of the text or story you will come to know, because there were the situations or the administration of such practices or experiences. I think Tolstoy has seen such kind of rules, such kind of what happenings in the history of life of man during those days. He has seen such a weak governments or rules in some of the nations of Russia continent as such. So that is why most probably it is he hints or takes up this theme, and example of Monaco is presented with a comic presentations throughout the story hereafter. Now, see what they will do next. Here is a interesting thing here. The ministers considered the matter and decided to address an inquiry to the French government, asking whether the French could not lend them a machine and an expert to cut off the criminal's head. And if so, would the French kindly inform them what it would cost? Yes. What else can they do here? And then again, see, they announced the death sentence and they were, planning to set the stage ready for execution. Then it's after that only they've noticed that yes, they have no guillotine machine and an expert to execute. Then all of a sudden again they gathered and thought of the help or the idea to implement death sentence. The only thing they get is asking the help from the countries like French and Italy who are at its borders. So then they wrote letter to French government in asking whether they can give a guillotine machine and an expert to execute the criminal here. And they also wrote, so what would it cost to both executioner and the guillotine machine, so to execute and giving it back to the person. Then the expert could be supplied. the expert could be supplied, and the cost would be around 16,000 francs. So, what is that? Here, France said that when they wrote to France government, that is French government, they said it will cost 16,000 francs. Okay, francs here for both. And when they wrote the same letter inquiring Italian government of Italy, okay, the government of Italy, they say 12,000 francs. Yes, francs it is. Yes, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, 12,000 francs. Yeah. So, which is cheaper here? Italy. Even the amount fixed by Italian government is cheaper than that of French government. It is too costly, expensive for the country like Monaco to bear this burden. Isn't it? Because there is no profit or income to the king in order to go for these directions here. So that is why, dear students, thank you. So now, dear students, be concentrate here, attentive here. You should not leave any line in between here. Because the evaluation section is very serious about the continuity or the chronology of the incidents in the given syllabus as such. So then, see what happens here. The letter was sent. A week later, the reply came. After the week, so French government sends the reply to this request of Monaco government. A machine and an expert could be supplied, and the cost would be 16,000 francs. Okay, they agreed to give because they get profit. Why they are going to refuse the people of France? No. They will agree and they are ready to give them both the facilities. This was laid before the king. Then all these people, what they did is they took the same thing, information to the king. They told him that this is what the situation, this is what the thing. Then he thought it over 16,000 francs. The wretch is not worth the money, he says. He says, the wretch is not worth the money, said the king. Can't it be done somehow cheaper? Why 16,000 francs is more than 2 francs ahead on the whole population. The people won't stand it, and it may cause a riot. Okay. The king, after listening to his followers, those ministers, barristers, courtiers as such, so it is going to cost 16,000. It becomes too expensive, too dear. highly, priced. They can't afford to pay here. So find out some of the, make it somewhat cheaper. The rich is not the worth the money here. Even the criminal is not equal to that money. Is not worth. Okay. Find some cheaper mean here. And moreover, it will be a burden to every citizen of the nation. So if you divide 16,000 francs to each citizen of the country, so it will come around how much? 2 francs on head per head. So people won't resist this. They won't agree. There may be riots from the people on government. So find out some other cheaper means to deal with the criminal. So it was a suggestion king gave to his followers. Now, so a council was called to consider what could be done, and it was decided to send a similar inquiry to the King of Italy. Yes. Okay, now what else is there? These ministers, again they met together and they organized a meeting once again to consider and to decide on to find some other means to deal with the king here, criminal here. They met, they discussed, and finally they decided to send a similar request to the King of Italy. The French government is Republican and has no proper respect for King of Monaco. But the King of Italy was a brother monarch and might be induced to do the thing cheaper than French government. So the letter was written and a prompt reply was received. Yes. These people, they thought that French government is a Republican one. Okay, what? Republican one. But whereas Italy is not like that. It is a brother monarch. So, as a brother monarch, it's the same rule in their countries, because it is the king, or Italy ruled by king, and Monaco is ruled by king, but it's not France which is ruled by king. The government is a republican type of government here. So thinking that they go cheaper in dealing with this, or helping or supplying the guillotine machine and an expert, they wrote the same letter to the Italian king or the government, and the prompt reply they received was, the Italian government wrote that they would have pleasure supplying both a machine and an expert, and the whole cost would be 12,000 francs, including traveling expenses. But there it is plus traveling expenses. Here it is not including everything, that it costs 12,000 francs. It may be when you compare these, you may feel like, yes, it is somewhat cheaper, because another they can save another 4,000 francs here when compared to Italian government and its price. But think of Monaco's profit here. How can Monaco bear this burden of a huge amount like this, 12,000 francs? The king worried and said that if it is 16,000 francs. So every citizen of the country will have a burden of 2 francs each. And what is the difference then? No difference at all. There is no much difference. So mathematically we can say that there is a difference, but when you take Monaco and its profit, okay, I don't think it will suit the economy of Monaco government or the profit of king here. So that is why we'll see what decision they will take. Then the total expenses, including the traveling allowances as such, so they are going to, cost 12,000 francs for both the things, that is the machine guillotine to execute and an expert here. They thought that they may go cheaper than this. And you can imagine what kind of expectation that they might have. 16,000 francs, then 12,000 francs. So the expectation is more from the followers of the king of Monaco here. But when they said, they replied that it costs this much. So, see, even this was difficult for Monaco to bear here. This was cheaper, but still it seemed too much. Yes, of course, to see it is cheaper, but it is still cheaper, it's still costly or dear, too dear when you compare to Monaco earnings or Monaco's economy. The rascal was really not worth the money. See, the rascal was really not worth the money. It would still mean nearly 2 francs more per head on the taxes. Another council was called. See, they go on conducting meetings, wasting the time, money, and their, knowledge, and coming out with such useless, inappropriate decisions to deal with the criminal here. That's what they do. Okay, they sit and they will see. They sit and decide in the meeting, and they will announce and see that then when they are going to, execute the plan, then they see that it is not possible for them, then again come and conduct meeting and discuss and talk, argue everything, and again come up with new decision and go and implement and not it is possible and again go for meeting. So the same thing was continued here. And dear students, imagine what sort of knowledge that these administrators of Monaco has. Don't you think that they are fickle-minded? Don't you think that they lack common sense? Don't you think that they are inappropriate to administer the palace and the government of Monaco here? Don't you think that they are fools when compared to the criminal here? Then what is the position of the criminal? He has nothing to do. He has given food there, place to live there, he is quite comfortable, happy in the prison, in the kingdom, because he was given food from the palace kitchen, everything. So he never intrude or comes in between any of these matters. He knows that they are foolish. He knows that they can do nothing to him. Yes. So that is why we can say that the criminal is shrewd or intelligent when comparing to the characters in the play. Yes. Then let's see what is the next plan for these people here. So another council was called. They discussed and considered how it could be done with less expense. Again they discussed, argued and considered and came with could not one of the soldiers, see, one person in that meeting, council, suggested, could not one person of our soldiers perhaps be got to do it in a rough and homely fashion? The general was called and was asked. Yes. Again, one person, he gave an idea of, giving it to the soldier and asking him to cut off his head. So let us hand it over to the army and they will do it. Then the army general was called to meeting to attend the council, and these people asked the general here and see what is his reply. Can't you find us a soldier who would cut the man's head off? So what is the number of soldiers in Monaco army? It is 60, isn't it? 60. And among 60 soldiers in the army, the general was asked a question by the committee of this council that, do you have anybody in your army who can cut the criminal's head off? Then see the reply of the general here. In war, they don't mind killing people. Yes, of course, it is a war. It is an opposite country and it is a war. So there they don't feel or find or mind killing the people. In fact, that is what they are trained for. Yes, of course, this is also right. Yes, to fight with the enemy, to fight with the enemy country. So the training was given on that basis itself, so they can find and kill the people of enemy country. Of course. So the general talked it over with the soldiers. Okay, even the general, he too never kept quiet. So as a request, he too went to the army and met with all his soldiers and inquired the soldiers whether anybody can do this act of killing the criminal here, cutting the head of the criminal here. So the general talked it over with the soldiers to see whether one of them would not undertake the job. Okay, he asked the soldiers, is there anybody who can cut the head off the criminal in our army? But none of the soldiers would do it. None of these soldiers, they would do it. Why? No, they said, we don't know how to do it. It's not a thing we have been taught. Trained or taught, yes. No, it is not possible. We can't do it. We don't know how to cut the criminal's head off. We have not been given any training or taught how to cut a man's head or a criminal's head. So we can't do it. So this is the reply, answer the army general gets from his soldiers. Imagine the condition of the government, the idea or the plight of this government here. What kind of respect, value that the country can expect with its citizens, if this is the case. If it can't deal with a criminal, if they can't carry out the death sentence to a person who has, murdered in the country, then what sort of nation it is this? And if there are no guillotine machine and an expert to execute, how can the administrators or the followers, ministers, and the king can implement a plan to decide the death sentence to the criminal here? Think of this. Then what else they can do? Again, the ministers, it was a pressure to them. What was to be done? Again, the ministers considered and reconsidered. As I said earlier, repetition, conducting meetings, discussing, arguing, considering everything in a scientific and a more modern manner. So they conduct meetings, wasting time, wasting money, everything, said with foolish decisions. What was to be done? Again, the ministers considered and reconsidered. They assembled a commission and a committee and a subcommittee, and at last they decided that the best thing would be to alter the death sentence to one of imprisonment for life. This would enable the prince to show his mercy, and it would come cheaper according to the wish of the king here. Yes, there is no other way. There is no other idea they can get rather than this. And everybody knows, if you think about a country or a place or anything like that, when there is no such thing, it will never ever announce in the initial stage, a death sentence to a criminal here. Why? Because they don't have things to do, perform it, carry out it, isn't it? If you have not worked hard, prepared, read, studied, how can you face the examination for 100 marks? Without knowing the syllabus, without having the textbook, without having any suggestion, guide, teaching, training, everything, how can you pass in the examination? How can you appear for the examination? It's not possible. Without knowing syllabus, without having textbook, without having coaching, training, teaching, nothing a student can write in the examination. It is the same thing we find with these people. Who? These barristers, ministers, advocates, courtiers. Then, so finally they came to an idea or a point that so there is the only way to get rid of this criminal is to alter the death sentence to one of life imprisonment. They thought that it is a very intelligent decision. The best thing would be to alter the death sentence to one of imprisonment for life. This would enable the prince to show his mercy, and it would come cheaper. Why did one show mercy towards a criminal then? Did criminal require any kind of mercy, kind-heartedness? Why should these people think like that our king would have should show mercy on a criminal like this, because it is the first murder in the country which has brought a very bad name to the country, that the country has criminals like murderers as such. Why should one show mercy to the criminals here? Murderers here. But see, what we say, they are foolish, then see, the king agrees with happiness here. The prince agreed to this, and so the matter was arranged. The only hitch now was that there was no suitable prison for a man sentenced for life. Yes, see, once again the same problem. Can you imagine, is there any government or country like this with such people, rulers and administrators as such? Okay, they have cancelled death sentence here, and they are going to change it to the life imprisonment here. But can you imagine a country, nation like Monaco has no prison to keep a prison or criminals? So how can you, or in what context can Monaco be a nation? Or can king be a good ruler over there? Or how can you say that the country is going to flourish with economical development? Or how can it educate the citizens of its own? If the followers, if the leaders, if the advocates, barristers, ministers, courtiers, goes with such an idiotic ideas, useless ideas, wasting money, income of the nation in conducting numbers of meetings with nonsense decisions as such, do you think, can anybody expect any development in any departments in Monaco? Then, see, the only hitch now was that there was no suitable prison for a man to sentence for life. There was a small lockup where people were sometimes kept temporarily, but there was no strong prison fit for permanent use. However, yes, there was no strong room. There was no particular very good room that where they can keep criminals like this. And it is not a small crime here, isn't it? It is not a theft. It is not a small thing that to forgive a criminal like this. They should have all these arrangements or facilities or infrastructure to carry out the things like this. But luckily, they have a small lockup there. A place where they used to keep the people who commit mistakes temporarily over there. Temporarily, not for a permanent purpose, like a criminal, like murderers who commits big crime. So, it is this kind of decisions they go on take in dealing with the criminal. They goes on altering, changing the decisions in dealing with the criminal. Did you get this? Yes. Dear students, Read the story once again, okay, with attention, with concentration, and really you should maintain a chronology of events when the question of how did the people or the king alters his decisions in dealing with the criminal. In what way you can show that the king is a fickle-minded, or the followers are not at all knowledgeable or have sense to deal with the criminal or to give a particular punishment to the criminal. So read it, and I think it is time now. Okay, I wanted to stop here. Yes. Okay. Bye everybody. Have a great day. Thank you.